Anna, just wanted to answer one of your questions. At least someone asked a question about Waze. Remember that? The only thing I can tell you is that Waze did change their algorithm, and they are actually moving cars and traffic from neighborhoods. There was a major complaint that as it happens when in the local streets, there's less traffic. So what they have done in the past, they have actually shifted traffic to the local streets. They're no longer doing that. The algorithm has changed. And as a result, in fact, when you drive and you utilize Waze and they redirect you and they tell you take this route, you can say a lot of traffic moving to that route. So many people now reacted but not moving. The people that understand a bit about the algorithm, they just stay where they are while everyone tries to get out.
Right.
So, you know, it is what it is. Let me put it that way.
Thank you. Yes, it's a tricky thing. And I was sorry, I don't know. I think Professor Sowers actually had, now I remember it, Lawrence, maybe you do too. He had another commitment, so he might have had to leave early.
But just telling you, I'm actually, I know that, so that's
yes.
okay.
Yes, thanks.
Okay. Anyway, so you tell me when we're ready and I will sum it up.
I think we might be ready now. It's 1 o'clock. It's all yours.
Okay. Do I need to explain who I am, or it's not needed?
Give a little primer. We have some time.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is an unpronounceable one, Michael Horodniceanu. I've been in this business for many, many years. Back in the 70s, I actually was very active in the area of safety. I, in fact, authored a book and created a new system called System Safety that was first introduced at New York City Transit Authority by a friend and a former colleague, Tom Prendergast, that came in at the time, and actually he put in place the system safety at New York City Transit. I have been, I've in fact had a company for many years. I was traffic commissioner for the city, and I have the the credit of putting in place in 1988 the first intersection for the red light cameras. That I'm actually happy not to be remembered for that. And then I have continued to have my own company doing a lot of traffic work and transportation work. And in 2008, I became president of MTA Capital Construction and left it in 2017, 9 years later, after I completed a number of mega projects, including the Second Avenue. I have some, I have listened to all of the, and by the way, in 2000, I'm sorry, I did not say that. In 2018, I rejoined the university, and I am now a professor at the NYU Tandon School of Engineering, Department of Civil and Urban Engineering, and chair of a new center that was created for innovations. Let me actually go directly to my reflection on the presentations that I have listened to. First, I would like to say something that I think is very important, that urban mobility is an interconnected activity between actually at all levels, between pedestrians and all types of vehicles that we find, and that could be e-scooters, could be bicyclists, could be cars, but there is an interconnection that should be remembered. It's very important. So this particular activity, there is a technological impact on the, in effect, the generational disruption of transportation. The fact that technology is there that impacts everything that we do. And one of the things that I got from these presentations today, there is a lot of work that has gone into data collection, categorizing it, looking at. However, I did not hear a lot about what are the actions that we need to take in order to actually address the current issues. I would say that one of the main issues that we're looking at this stage is really the impact, and I'm gonna put it on for pedestrians and vehicular, is the fact that we tend to forget that there is something today called iPhones. I happen to have been around on streets for many years, and I have actually drove, and I have been looking at stuff, and my conclusion has been that pedestrians today are ignoring a lot of the things that are put in place, particularly in New York, that would make our streets safer. Pedestrians continues to cross streets by texting, by being on the phone, by doing things that in fact distract them from the activity of crossing a street. And they're doing that while drivers on the other side are doing similar stuff, but they're doing it in a vehicle, and they are on the phone, they text as well. That is a deadly confluence, and it has to be addressed. And in my view, the biggest thing that we need to address is training. And I will say that behavioral training is very important. And unless we start it very early, and when I said very early, it starts before a kid goes to school, and it has to continue in schools in order to create a generation of kids that now are going to be able to use these devices that are taking away from their attentions where they ought to be to something different. I'm sure that many of you that have children or they have grandchildren know that in order to engage a kid today is very hard, because they're all into this iPhones with games and so kind of thing. So that is something that then is transmitted forward in the next, with years going forward. So it's very important here for us to look at our social norms and the social environment in order to create a different behavior. And that's not something that I've heard being addressed as part of the important work that is being done today, that actually collects data, looks at how the people behave, but the question is, how do we change that? And I think that my reflection from these presentations is that we need to do that. Safety is not a slogan. Just by saying it, it does not happen. We need to be very much involved beyond, once we collect the data, once we understand why things happen, we now have to address that on an active way in order to change the paradigm as to how people behave. The bottom line is that in the city of New York now, we are looking at micromobility, and we expect to have we do have already bicycles that are traveling at up to 28 miles an hour. That's a very high speed. I'm gonna try to, the maximum speed that we're allowed in many places today is 25. There are e-bikes that are gonna travel faster than that, and they are gonna be much closer to pedestrians. I personally observe, and I do not know that, I've not seen the statistics, that today people on bicycles are in effect not obeying the normal traffic regulations. They cross on reds, they are not stopping, and all of these things are not conducive to a safe environment. In fact, there are places in the world in which children, and I did not hear that there is a prohibition on the age of utilizing these scooters, e-bikes, and there are lots and lots of accidents that happen because of that. And there is no regulation whatsoever. The fact that you could actually own an e-bike, you can own an e-scooter, all of these things are actually have to be looked at in order to improve safety. And once we're gonna accept that in our system, we have to make sure that they are properly done. We need to create a culture similar to some European countries. Holland would be one example, Denmark would be another one, in which bicycles are a mode of transport. As a result, people behave differently, and there is a need for us to kind of adopt the same thing. New York is in many ways not necessarily the place that we should use as an example. We jaywalk in every place. You go to California and people do not move from the sidewalk until it turns green. We look at green as potentially a nice color, but not necessarily something that tells you that you should not cross the street. So again, these are behavioral changes that need to be introduced early on. And when I say early on, it starts with children, because the children will be the next generation that we are going to see. So everyone learns from what they see. And that's something very important. I can tell you that I have changed the way I am driving, particularly when I am with my grandchildren in the car, because one of my grandkids, when she was maybe 5 or 6.
2 minutes.
That's okay. Started to, as I was driving, someone crossed inappropriately, and she started to curse like a, never heard her utter these words. And I realized that actually, potentially, I have done that once. So she thought that, hey, someone crossing and I don't like it, you curse them. That's not, and I changed the way I do stuff so to make sure that I am providing an example. But my point here is that we need to try to change behavior by training. And in fact, we have to look at ourselves in a little different way. And my suggestion and reflection for the future is that our research ought to focus not only on collecting data, but actually using it to change behavior. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Just wanted to see if anybody from NYC DOT wanted to say a final comment.
Yes, hi. I just wanted to talk a bit about something that came up in my session about speed cameras, but I want to kind of share with the larger group as well. You may have heard about an approach called safe systems. I know it's very common in the traffic safety world, and it's, I think, a good antidote to kind of some of the frustration we might feel about wondering why people make decisions they do. And kind of it guides what we're doing in Vision Zero away towards ideas of individual responsibility and more towards more of a systemic way of looking at safety. So the idea of a safe system, first of all, focuses on the idea that all humans are fallible. We are not perfect beings. To err is human, and we're going to make mistakes. But then the second aspect is that we should be designing road systems that understand that we're fallible and which make allowances for that, and that are forgiving in many ways. And then the third aspect is that the designers of the system, which includes myself and all my colleagues here on the Vision Zero Task Force, we take an element of responsibility for how that system operates. And I really like this approach because it allows us, even though we do talk a lot about, your choices matter behind the wheel, and we do talk a lot about, driver error, it also kind of shifts our conversation more toward the idea that we are designing a greater whole here, that everything we're trying to do on the task force and in all our individual agencies is focused on the idea of creating a city that functions better, and where, making a mistake, because we're all going to make mistakes, does not have to be serious or deadly. So I know a lot of the national groups working on Vision Zero, we're talking a lot more about safe systems now, that it's becoming something that's coming up in Washington as well. And I think there's a lot to be gained from having that type of outlook on safety in general, not just road safety, but in other types of ways that could come up in our world. And I'd like to leave everyone just kind of thinking about that, about how we're all practitioners working within a larger system and trying to understand that we're never going to be perfect, but if we're aiming towards zero, we need our wider structures to be kind of understanding about the shortcomings we all have as humans.
Thank you so much for that, Julia. Great wrap up from you both. I am just popping in now to talk about how we'll keep this momentum going after the event. Obviously, this was more of a start of many conversations than really a conclusion, given all the questions that we had in between our sessions and at the breakout groups. So what you should expect from our team is an email, most likely tomorrow, with the resources that we've spoken about today. We will also be sending out a form that you can fill in if you'd like to collaborate with any of the people who have spoken. We'll connect you, we'll make sure that you talk. We are happy to facilitate anything that's not covered in that email. Just let us know what's going on. Otherwise, we want to thank you for all of your time and attention this morning. It's hard to stay at your computer for a number of hours while people talk, and it's a lot easier to do this in person, hopefully next time, but I think this made it somewhat easier for us all to be able to be here. So thanks again.
Fiona?
Yeah.
To interrupt, I wanted to add just one more thanks while you're in your thank you sessions. In addition to Kathleen, who did mighty work in putting this together, I also wanted to acknowledge the Town and Gown Initiative and Terry Matthews, who was able to bring in so many of our academic partners who gave presentations and who were able to attend today. So thank you, Vision Zero, and thank you, Town and Gown.